we look at the fact that over 5,000 people have died since the mid-90s, it really calls to question that these policies are not effectively dealing with immigration. I think that we need to place this fence within the context of history and consider at what point are we going to decide that building fences is not an effective way of doing good policy, especially with our neighbors to the south with whom we are not at war.
My name is Walter Moore. I'm running for mayor of LA. My website is waltermooreformayor.com. This is an essay I wrote entitled, "We're Losing a War We Don't Even Know We're In." War has changed through history. At one point, soldiers in brightly colored uniforms conveniently lined up in rows on battlefields like two opposing football teams facing one another. World War II brought the bombing of cities. 9/11 showed that nation-states aren't the only groups that can wage war from the air without even having an air force of their own. One reason nations lose war is that they prepare for the last war, not the next war. When the German tanks rolled into Poland in 1939, the Polish army bravely tried to defend their territory on horseback. The United States, likewise, is prepared to fight the last war, the last kind of war. If any enemy tried to drive tanks across our borders, fly bombers into our airspace, or sail warships into our harbors, we would easily prevail. Unfortunately, we're in a new kind of war that most of us don't even know is underway. It is the most innovative and successful war ever waged in history, and we're losing it badly. I'm not talking about the war with Islamic terrorists. I'm talking about the war with Mexico. On September 3, 2007, Mexico's president stated, quote, "I have said that Mexico does not stop at its border, that wherever there is a Mexican, there is Mexico," unquote.
I said that Mexico does not end at the border, that where there is a Mexican, Mexico is there.
Mexican President Felipe Calderon's State of the Nation speech Sunday could be interpreted as a direct challenge to U.S. sovereignty.
A previous Mexican president said the same thing in English in Chicago at a La Raza convention in the 90s.
I have proudly affirmed that the Mexican nation extends beyond the territory enclosed by its borders. Viva la raza! Viva Mexico!
Mexico's strategy is brilliant. Mexico is effectively taking control of our territory simply by having its citizens walk across our undefended border. Their only weapon is shoes. You still think the Maginot Line was dumb? At least the French tried to keep out foreign invaders, and at least the Germans had to go around it. Although certain gangs of illegal aliens have used violence to engage in ethnic cleansing in certain LA neighborhoods, a la Croatia and Darfur, Mexico's war against us is, for the most part, nonviolent, waged with nothing more than money and words. Our vulnerability isn't military. Rather, our Achilles heel is political correctness. As a nation, we'd rather silently endure the invasion rather than subject ourselves to the embarrassment of being called racist. Can you think of any other nation in history that would be so easily defeated by name-calling? Criminy. Mexico's word weapon is more effective than any neutron bomb. You remember the neutron bomb? That was a so-called capitalist bomb that would kill people through radiation but leave buildings intact. Well, Mexico is taking over without destroying buildings or injuring people. Indeed, Mexico has effectively managed to get U.S. citizens to pay tribute voluntarily. Heck, the ancient Romans at least had to post armies in conquered lands to force locals to render unto Caesar. By contrast, Americans are taxing themselves to pay for the education, healthcare, and other services for a huge portion of Mexico's population.
Public healthcare in Los Angeles is on life support.
Hospitals are closing because of the totality of the uninsured.
60% of the county's uninsured patients are not U.S. citizens. More than half are here illegally.
those who have simply walked into our cities, most notably Los Angeles, the ground zero of Mexico's attack. For example, 41% of the children in the Los Angeles Unified School District are English learners, which basically amounts to a euphemism for Mexican children. The LAUSD's budget, by the way, is $6.2 billion per year. In 2003, Los Angeles County estimated that it spent $350 million per year providing health care to illegal aliens. Rather than insisting that Mexicans in this country learn English, or even pay for their own interpreters, Los Angeles County uses taxpayers' money to pay hundreds of interpreters for court proceedings. The interpreters are on strike right now because the county only offered them a $73,000 a year salary. Speaking of language, that's another sign of how successful Mexico's war on the United States has been. If you live in LA, take a short drive in your car with the radio on, and you will see and hear how far gone this city is. If you've lived here for a while, you've seen the trend in signage. We've gone from English-only signs to bilingual with Spanish subtitles to bilingual with English subtitles, and now we have many signs that are in Spanish only. Mexico has, moreover, successfully co-opted our local government and media. Collaborators abound and are ready, willing, and able to accommodate Mexico's unarmed army, our own version of Vichy France. Examples include the following. The City of LA's Special Order 40 actually prohibits police from investigating violations of our immigration laws. Another example, LA's City Council voted to require city agencies, as well as hotels and motels, to accept matricula consular cards as valid ID. Now, who would need to rely on such a card, do you suppose, as opposed to a driver's license or, say, a valid foreign passport? Another example, the Tribune Company, which owns the Los Angeles Times, also owns a Spanish-language newspaper called Hoy and runs many of the two papers' operations jointly. Talk about conflict of interest. How many ads do you think they'd sell in Hoy if all the Mexicans who are here illegally suddenly return to Mexico? Don't expect to read an editorial favoring enforcement of our immigration laws, ever. And don't expect any coverage, much less favorable coverage, of any candidate for local offices who urges enforcement of our immigration laws. NBC Universal owns both NBC and the Spanish-language Telemundo network. Same story as with the Los Angeles Times. As Mexico's invasion goes, so go the profits from the Spanish-language division. Conquest is good for business. Another example, the mayor of LA, America's second largest city, Antonio Villaraigosa, openly sides with illegal aliens rather than with the American citizens he is supposed to represent. He has declared, quote, "There are no illegal people," unquote. Then again, he never did manage to pass the bar exam. And when you call the city's 311 line, not only must you endure Villaraigosa's unnecessary bilingual greeting, you must also press 1 to continue in English. Mexico's invading army greatly outnumbers our own U.S. Army, as well as our Marines, our Air Force, our Navy, and our National Guard. Estimates of the number of illegal aliens range between 12 and 20 million people. In 2003, we had only 2.7 million men and women in active duty and reserve units in all our armed forces all over the world. Our troops are thus outnumbered by a 4.4 to 1 ratio, and our troops are scattered all over the globe, protecting everyone but ourselves from foreign invasion. Mexico's invading army, moreover, sends much of its money back to the mother country. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas estimated that Mexican workers sent back about $20 billion in 2005 alone. So the bad news is we're losing this war, and we're losing it big time. The good news is we can win it back non-violently by finding our backbone, enforcing our laws, and electing better people to public office.